Arabia on May 4th issued a formal reaction to the Iranian attacks on the UAE's Fujairah region and nearby US warships, signaling growing alarm in Riyadh over the latest escalation. Soon after that, President Donald Trump said he was halting Project Freedom just one day after the mission had been launched, pointing to a rapid shift in the US approach to Hormuz.
Our Chinese friends also believe that Iran after the war is different from Iran before the war. Its international status has been elevated, and it has proven its capability and authority.
From Chinese soil, Iran now appears to be delivering what some may call a post-war reality check, signaling that Tehran believes it emerged from the conflict with enough leverage to challenge Washington's pressure campaign. Iran's latest declaration is also landing just as key US-aligned Arab states appear to be recalibrating their posture, feeding speculation that regional players may now be trying to engage what they see as a more assertive and battle-tested leadership in Tehran. With Trump pausing pressure in Hormuz and Tehran moving to formalize new shipping rules, some observers may read Iran's message as an attempt to set entirely new terms of engagement for the Gulf after the war. On May 6th, Iran's foreign minister spoke of what he described as a new era of cooperation with Beijing, signaling that Tehran now wants to deepen its post-war strategic alignment with China. Abbas Araghchi made the declaration after holding talks with his Chinese counterpart Wang Yi in Beijing, giving the message added diplomatic weight at a time of major regional and global realignment. Araghchi also said that Iran after the war is different from Iran before the war, a remark that suggests Tehran sees the conflict as a turning point that has reshaped both its posture and its partnerships.
Our Chinese friends also believe that Iran after the war is different from Iran before the war. Its international status has been elevated, and it has proven its capability and authority. Therefore, a new era of cooperation between Iran and other countries lies ahead. We reviewed the current issues. We discussed the topics related to the war and how to end it, the ongoing negotiations, issues concerning Iran's peaceful nuclear program, discussions about sanctions, and all bilateral matters. The issue of the Strait of Hormuz was one of our serious topics of discussion, and we also addressed the necessity of respecting the rights of the Islamic Republic of Iran, along with all existing viewpoints.
On May 6th, Iran's foreign minister held a telephone conversation with his Saudi counterpart, signaling continued diplomatic contact between Tehran and Riyadh at a sensitive regional moment. Iran's Abbas Araghchi spoke by phone with Saudi Foreign Minister Faisal bin Farhan while he was on his China visit, adding another layer of diplomatic coordination amid fast-moving events in the Gulf. Meanwhile, U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio confirmed that Operation Epic Fury had officially concluded, marking what Washington presented as the end of that phase of military action. Soon after that, President Donald Trump said he was halting Project Freedom just one day after the mission had been launched, pointing to a rapid shift in the U.S. approach to Hormuz. The United States had launched Project Freedom to guide commercial shipping through the Strait of Hormuz as maritime tensions intensified under the Iranian blockade and transit restrictions. On the first day of the mission, Iran was accused of striking Fujairah in the UAE and multiple cargo ships, sharply escalating fears over the security of Gulf shipping routes. Tasnim news agency reported the diplomatic conversation between the top officials of Tehran and Riyadh, highlighting that back-channel communication continued even as military tensions persisted. Tasnim news agency reported, and I quote, Syed Abbas Araghchi, the Minister of Foreign Affairs of our country, who is in Beijing to meet and consult with Chinese officials, had a telephone conversation with Faisal bin Farhan, the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Saudi Arabia, this Wednesday afternoon. In this conversation, while examining the latest trend of regional developments, the parties emphasized the continuation of the path of diplomacy and cooperation of the countries of the region to prevent the occurrence and escalation of tension. Unquote. The phone call came just a day after Saudi Arabia reacted to the latest reported attack on the UAE, underscoring how closely regional diplomacy is now tracking developments around Hormuz. Saudi Arabia on May 4th issued a formal reaction to the Iranian attacks on the UAE's Fujairah region and nearby US warships, signaling growing alarm in Riyadh over the latest escalation. Riyadh condemned what it described as the first Iranian strike on Gulf countries since the ceasefire came into effect, warning that such actions threaten the entire region's stability. The Iranian attacks took place on the very day that the United States began guiding commercial cargo ships through the Strait of Hormuz under new naval protection mission. The UAE's defense ministry said its air defenses had engaged a total of 15 incoming Iranian missiles and 4 drones on May 4, intercepting many of them before impact. One of the drone strikes caused a fire at a key oil facility in the Emirate of Fujairah, injuring 3 Indian workers who were present at the site when the blast occurred. In a separate statement, the UK military reported that fires had broken out on board 2 cargo ships off the UAE's coast, believed to be linked to the same wave of attacks. Iranian officials described the strike on Fujairah as a direct consequence of what they called US adventurism, blaming Washington's new naval moves for provoking the confrontation. Sources speaking to Iran's state broadcaster IIB said the attack was the product of US adventurism for illegal passage of ships, accusing America of trying to force its way through Hormuz. Iran's navy also confirmed that it had fired both missiles and drones at US warships that were approaching the Strait of Hormuz as part of the new American escort operation. Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman held a phone call with the UAE's president after the attacks, in which the 2 leaders discussed the situation and coordinated their response to Iran's actions. Riyadh's official statement said, "The Ministry of Foreign Affairs expresses the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia's condemnation and strongest denunciation of the Iranian targeting, via missiles and drones, of civilian and economic facilities in the sisterly United Arab Emirates state and of a tanker affiliated with an Emirati company." His Royal Highness Crown Prince conducted a phone call with the President of the United Arab Emirates during which he expressed the kingdom's condemnation and strong denunciation of the unjustified Iranian attacks that targeted the sisterly United Arab Emirates, and affirmed the kingdom stand alongside the UAE in defending its security and stability. Escalation is spreading across the Gulf region, with Iran issuing strong and direct warnings to its regional adversaries amid rapidly rising tensions. Tehran has made it clear it will retaliate against the United Arab Emirates if it takes any action Iran considers unwise or provocative. According to Tasnim news agency, Iran warned that if the UAE becomes what it called a plaything of Israel, it will directly target Emirati interests. An Iranian military source said, and I quote, "No official threat has so far been announced by the Emiratis. But if the Emiratis become a plaything of Israel and make a wrong move, they will learn a lesson they will never forget. If the UAE takes any unwise action, all its interests will become targets for Iran, and no part of Emirati facilities will be safe. The UAE knows it is sitting in a very fragile glass house, and insecurity is absolute poison for it. If it wants to repeat the mistake of the 40-day war, we will completely abandon restraint and treat this Zionist nest as part of the Zionist regime." Unquote. Tehran has framed the Fujairah incident as a retaliatory move, blaming what it describes as ongoing US adventurism in the region. Iranian state media claims the Fujairah strike was not a pre-planned operation, insisting it was a reaction triggered by US actions. Officials in Tehran say the incident resulted from US actions allegedly aimed at creating a passage for what they call illegal transit of ships. These warnings come after strikes linked to Iran hit Emirati territory, intensifying fears that the conflict could widen across the region. An alleged Iranian drone attack triggered a major fire at a petrol complex in Fujairah, raising alarm over critical infrastructure security. The UAE has claimed that Iran launched 4 cruise missiles toward its territory, although Tehran has neither confirmed nor acknowledged the claim. According to Channel 12, a UAE official conveyed to Israel that the country does not intend to remain silent in response to these attacks. Both the UAE and South Korea reported strikes on ships passing through the crucial Strait of Hormuz on May 4, adding to concerns over maritime security. Emirati leadership has strongly condemned the attacks on civilian areas and signaled that it is prepared to respond if necessary, raising the stakes in an already volatile regional situation. This development highlights a rapidly hardening alignment among Gulf states and Israel, as regional powers appear increasingly united in their stance against Iran's actions. Qatar's emir has also joined the growing wave of condemnation, denouncing Iranian actions and urging all parties to exercise restraint and move immediately toward de-escalation. The Gulf Cooperation Council has likewise condemned Iran's behavior, calling it irresponsible and dangerous, and warning that it poses a serious threat to regional security and stability. Jassim Mohammed al-Budaiwi said, and I quote, "Strikes represent a flagrant violation of the sovereignty of a member state of the Cooperation Council. Targeting the United Arab Emirates is unacceptable and condemned by all standards, and reflects an escalatory approach that disregards the rules of international law and the principles of good neighborliness. We call on the international community to assume its responsibilities to stop these repeated Iranian attacks and to put an immediate end to the irresponsible actions that undermine regional and international peace and security." Unquote. EU Commission President Ursula von der Leyen has condemned Iran's reported missile and drone attacks targeting the United Arab Emirates, posting her response on the platform X and calling for restraint and de-escalation. Meanwhile, US President Donald Trump stopped short of labeling the incident a direct violation of the ceasefire, according to reports. Trump also warned Iran that the best outcome for all sides would be maintaining the ceasefire and preventing further escalation in the region. The United Arab Emirates, a key US partner in the region, has strongly criticized Iran over an alleged attack on one of its crude oil tankers. Abu Dhabi claimed that a state-linked oil vessel was targeted by Iranian drones while navigating through the Strait of Hormuz. The tanker, reportedly operated by ADNOC, was said to be empty at the time of the incident on May 3. According to the UAE Foreign Ministry, 2 Iranian drones were involved in the strike as the vessel transited the strategic waterway. The UAE has also called for the complete and unconditional reopening of the Strait of Hormuz to ensure uninterrupted maritime movement. Officials in Abu Dhabi accused Iran's naval forces of engaging in coercive tactics and described the actions as a form of maritime piracy.